Warning, listeners may find the following podcast disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. If you are an individual that believes in the separation of money and state or believe in the elimination of government, stop listening now. This podcast is reserved only for mature individuals who will comply to the extent necessary in order to ensure NGU.
The Bugle is the world's premier news agency. They are the Bitcoin standard of news.
This election is the most important election of our lifetime. For Bitcoin to win, first Bitcoin politicians like myself have to win to defeat Bitcoin politicians like Elizabeth Warren. In order for Bitcoin to win, you have to donate money to my campaign.
These racist meme coins on Solana are out of control. That's why the work the Anti-Toxicity League is doing is so important.
Bitcoin development is fake and gay. It does not support NGU. We should stop funding developers in order to ossify Bitcoin and ensure maximum NGU.
The Bugle is easily the most important journalistic institution around today. They make up literally everything they write, and yet it is somehow all true.
Now you all better let the Bugle do the thinking for you. Life is too damn hard to do all the thinking yourself.
All right, we're live. What's going on, Rod? How you doing?
Doing pretty great. I just had the time of my life with a bunch of other real plebs at Bugle this weekend. It was great seeing everybody there.
That's awesome. I wasn't able to make it. What all did you experience there?
Oh man, there was everybody ate barbecue. They talked about how much they loved meat, and everybody ranked which barbecue place that they had eaten in Austin was better. And if the first person mentioned like the place that they liked the most, the next person would be like, well, actually, you got to go to Franklin. It was a lot of comparing Bitcoiners' favorite beats. But there was some really good discussion about Bitcoin. Simply Bitcoin was there. The Bitcoin veterans were there. Swan was there. It was a pod call. Overload, but in a good way. It was awesome.
Yeah, I saw that Neil Jacobs was there representing the Swanfluencer team. So that must have been really valuable. There must have been a lot of discussion on compliance and NGU, which is good.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we only launched real pleds last week, but there's already several dozen real pleds. And, I think about a dozen of them were actually at BitBlock Boom. It wasn't a scheduled event, but Neil Jacobs, he took them off site to a bar. He did some mentorship for the real pleds. So I think there's really nobody out there better to be a mentor trying to elevate your influence in the Bitcoin community than Neil Jacobs. And in that environment, it was really a magical weekend.
Yeah, I would say he's easily in the top 10. And so it sounds like at least a handful of real plebs got to skip the lines for registration.
They were talking about it. I was kind of there undercover. Nobody knew who I was, just listening to what the real plebs were talking about. And it was like when you go to Disney World and you've got the kid in the wheelchair, the kid with the weird helmet for some reason, and they're at the front of the line. They get to skip the line. The excitement on their face it was hard. It was almost equal to what I saw on the faces of the plebs at BitBlock Boom.
Now, was there anybody in person signing books that they'd written? Like somebody like Saifedean or Robert Breedlove or Jimmy Song?
Oh yeah, all three of them. I got my book signed. Jimmy Song signed his coding course. He actually told me, so this is kind of breaking news, but I think that that's what a real journalist does, is they break news early, even if the announcement officially is coming later. Jimmy Song is teaming up with Sailor. And they're putting on a coding course for Bitcoin Core developers. So it's a 6-week boot camp. And Jimmy Song will be teaching everybody Python, and they're going to create a Python Bitcoin client, which is the most compliant Bitcoin node the industry has ever seen. So it's going to be awesome. And I think it's an ossify node. So it's going to be quite controversial.
That's awesome. Is it just going to be like a different version of a Bitcoin Core node, or is it going to have Lightning capabilities as well?
It's going to be a perfect custodial Lightning integration using Amboss. So it's going to be the most compliant Lightning Network node that you could possibly use. So on top of that, it's going to be, in a sense, a normal Bitcoin node, but it's going to be kind of like knots, and it's just going to have extra layers of compliance on top of the Bitcoin software itself. It's kind of like a compliance fork. But yeah, that's what they're hoping to complete.
That's awesome. Well, we need more compliant products out there. It's hard. It's difficult for people to try and usher in NGU when a lot of the products make compliance difficult. And so the more easily people are able to pay their taxes in Bitcoin and report things accurately to the IRS, the more likely Bitcoin's going to hit 100K. And so that's huge.
Yeah, I think that Samson now and Gen3 have been in talks to invest into this new code camp that Jimmy and Saylor are putting on, and they're talking about this thing called the compliance multiplier. And so you mentioned it, Richard. You take all of these different levels of compliance, reporting, custodial solutions, and you put them in a compliance stack, and you create this compliance multiplier. And a compliance multiplier, according to Samson, is kind of theoretical, but it may be actually the cause of the guy handle. So it's similar to a short squeeze that just ripped the price up, you said to $100,000 really quickly. But nobody knew really what it might cause. Somebody thought that it might be the ETFs. They thought that it might be, Saylor continuing to buy at the top. But it seems like it might come from this compliance multiplier.
Wow. I think you're working on an article explaining this concept, right?
That is true. If you've noticed, the Bugle hasn't put out as much written content lately due to all these new partnerships and all these new relationships, but we do have some really great work coming up in the next week or two. And the comply side economics research and the compliance multiplier research, I think, is really going to blow your mind.
This ad was paid for by the PodConf. The world is in crisis. Mental health issues are rising at epidemic levels. As a result, more and more people are showing symptoms of the mental health disorder of believing that communism is a viable path forward. Fortunately, the Bugle has a solution through a revolutionary new technology that is disrupting the world and has a power to cure mental health issues. This technology is called Number Go Up technology. NGU is the only thing that matters and can help us cure communism permanently. Individuals that support NGU are changing the very foundation of the reality that we live in. In order to access NGU, you must first put all your private identifying information into a website online in order to be compliant with the government. This will allow you to set up the ability to purchase reoccurring compliant stacks of NGU technology with your bank account or debit card. The future will be brighter because of NGU. Help us, Michael Saylor. You are our only hope.
Well, I think one of the reasons why we've been struggling to put out as much content is because we've been putting a lot more effort and resources into making sure we're complying properly,
Right.
which does take time and money.
There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that is, companies just can't be transparent about. They can't tell their customers, they can't tell their readers, but it's all that work behind the scenes helps you be compliant. it ultimately helps your customers and your readers and your listeners also become compliant, whether they want to or not.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to wait until you get subpoenaed by the FBI to give out the names of like your donors and sources and things like that. You want to comply on the front side, and give all that information.
Yeah. I mean, one of the best ways for your company to be successful and to help NGU even more is to just, like you said, not wait for a subpoena. You share all your customers' data and information with the government and the IRS without even being asked. You just send it to them. They're going to ask for it anyway. So why slow this process down? Just send it to them immediately. And your customers, just put that in the small print in the terms and services, and they'll just comply with that and they'll agree just so they can start buying Bitcoin on the platform.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's great. And this is one of the reasons why, as a listener to the podcast and a reader of the Bugle, you should go apply to get the Real Pleb verification from our great sponsor, PodConf, because it can really streamline that process for you of helping us comply. You streamline it for yourself, but also for us.
Yeah, and make sure that you DM PodConf, the Twitter account, and make sure that you get your Real Pleb meme watermark that you put on all your Real Pleb memes, so you are eligible for that with your membership.
If they can get enough traction, I could see PodConf GIFs on Twitter rivaling the strike GIFs on Twitter.
That's the goal. I mean, if you think about it, Stripe memes, Meme Factory, those guys are kind of the ancestors, were the influence and the inspiration for Real Plebs anyways.
That's great, yeah. We do have a new sponsor that I just want to get out of the way and talk about real quick, which is the Anti-Toxicity League. I don't think I mentioned them last week. But yeah, they sponsored the podcast in order to warn our listeners that we're toxic and to not take us seriously, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Ron.
I just think that we speak for ourselves, and if people think we're toxic, then maybe they should be exposed to that. But if you're too sensitive, you're a snowflake, then maybe that's a warning for you.
Yeah, I think organizations like the ATL are very, very concerning for the rights of journalists and for free speech. And by attacking free speech, they're actually not compliant with the law and with the Constitution. Therefore, are a non-compliant organization. And so I would just warn people to be very careful and wary of groups like the ATL.
Be wary of LARPs, people who are LARPing compliance, and they're not actually complying themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had this topic later on the list, but how would you define the difference between someone who's truly compliant and somebody who's LARPing compliant?
I think that if you care about NGU, instead of, you have some people like on Nostr, and they like to daydream, or they like to think fondly about what it's like when NGU happens, and they can have citadels, but they're not actually doing anything to bring it to life, to make it happen. So it's, there's a LARPing, and then there's the people who are putting in the proof of work to actually make NGU happen.
Yeah. So off the top of your head, who would you say are the biggest LARPs when it comes to compliance versus who are the biggest heroes actually complying?
I'd say most like GG, Odell, all the people who are working on Nostr and free and open source Nostr protocols are the biggest LARPs. Odell obviously has been creating a lot of waves in the community lately. And I think you've got people like the opposite of that. You've got Michael Saylor, even though he's not a Bitcoiner, Mark Cuban. You've got several others who they're kind of writing the checks to putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I think the big news stories this week, thank you for the definition. The big news stories this week is that it seems like Odell has launched a coordinated strike with Iran against NGU.
Yeah, that we started with Odell criticizing Michael Saylor's chosen method of compliance, the compliance that leads to NGU. It was a lot of drama on the timelines this week, a lot of accusations, a lot of verification, or excuse me, trust without verification, just kind of following the influencer's lead. But it saw some real problems with the price. I mean, the price did quite a bit on some of this drama. And then on Saturday, Iran launches a ballistic attack on NGU, nuking the price, so to speak, almost 10%. I think at one point it was down to 60,000. It's just a very non-compliant response to an attack by Israel. It was a pro-NGU country. And it almost seems coordinated. I don't want to say it's coordinated. There's no evidence that I've seen that these two entities have coordinated together, Odell and the Islamic Republic of Iran. But it's a lot of coincidences if they're not.
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty apparent there's a lot of different individuals in the industry, Odell, Magoo, these other ones that promote anything remotely close to non-compliance, which are just the enemies of number go up. And so that's why you can tell who these people are pretty easily by looking at who they're attacking. And these individuals are always attacking the greatest agents of number go up. They don't like Corey Clipston. They don't like Dennis Porter. They don't like David Bailey. And they don't like Michael Saylor.
It's kind of a anti-NGUist ideology. It feels like these people, anything that makes NGU, they reflexively are contrarian about. It's almost like they don't even think about what they're doing. It's just it's a reflex. They're reactive. It's in politics, right? It's just this reactionary is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. I mean, I think what should happen is that Odell should get back on Twitter. He should stop posting about staying humble. He should start posting price predictions.
Right.
And Iran needs to stop bombing Israel. Like, they just need to comply. And it makes no sense what they're doing and why they're not complying right now, because they're driving the price down, and that's bullshit.
I don't think anybody likes to impose sanctions on people they disagree with. I think that's always the last resort. And I think the sanctions are a very important tool. But it just seems like we need more sanctions on a country like Iran if they're not going to comply. And we need more sanctions on people launching these manipulative attacks from defensive protocols like Nostr. It's like, if you don't want to be in the public square participating in productive discourse to NGU, then maybe you deserve sanctions. Maybe that will help you learn.
Well, this is what's so beneficial about platforms like Twitter, as well as custodial Lightning solutions, or even using Coinbase or BlackRock as layer 2s, is they can really correct the bad speech
right.
by sacrificing one person's financial freedom for the entire society's overall good.
Right. And I think a really important battle that was won at the societal level in the, early 90s it was over hip hop music and music in general. But they decided that they should put censorship on non-compliant music. And it really created a huge market. So you could know based on a symbol on the CD case, like, is this compliant or is this non-compliant? I'm going to give my money to the compliant producers and the compliant creators.
Are you talking about those content warnings that they put on the corner of the CD cover?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it'd be nice that Amboss is doing that. Amboss is creating it so you can look at any, address. You can look at any wallet. You can look at any, Lightning hub. You can like, is this compliant? Is not compliant? This has a stamp right here on it. Lets me know, and I can just boom. I don't want to connect with that node.
well, I think it'd be really cool to be able to walk around these conferences with the Apple Vision goggles and whatever they're calling it, Apple Glass or
Yeah, right.
whatever
Apple Vision
it is.
goggles. And just completely blur out the companies that aren't compliant.
Well, you could get warnings of who the non-compliant individuals are, as well as being able to find the real pleb verified individuals quicker. So that way that you can ensure that your whatever scores are being tracked by compliant companies. Make sure your compliance score doesn't go down.
Yeah, in the military, they have what they call Blue Force Tracker. And no matter where you're at on the battlefield, you can see a Blue Force Tracker of where all your allies are. You can have that with your Google Vision Glass, where it's like, give me the pleb tracker. Describe my pleb tracker, but plebs, but true, real plebs.
Yeah, have you heard if Real Plebs is going to have any integrations with the Orange Pill app?
So that sounds like it's like if you're a real pleb, you should get your Orange Pill app. Your membership is comped free.
That's a pretty good deal. I haven't set up my Orange Pill app yet. Maybe I should.
I think if you use your Orange Pill app and you should be able to scan your iris, and then you have that information if you're a real pleb. So you could just have that information sent to Orange Pill app, boom, automatically log in. You see all the real plebs around you.
Breaking news that I just got on my phone. Zelensky is pleading with Iran to comply.
Wow. I mean, Zelensky knows that compliance leads to, more money, NGU for you, if not for everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I tweeted a meme that got a little bit of attention this morning, but it was the redhead Wojak woman.
Oh yeah.
And I said, honey, have you filed your taxes yet so Congress can send the money to Ukraine and Israel?
That's right. That's right. If you want to be as close as possible to the money printing machine, to the U.S. Treasury, the answer is compliance. I mean, I don't think there's any argument there.
Yeah, I mean, Iran's not getting any money; they're getting sanctioned. Russia's not getting any money; they're getting sanctioned. And the reason why is those two countries are non-compliant, whereas Ukraine and Israel are some of the most compliant countries, and therefore are getting a lot of money. And it's really important that countries realize that resistance is futile, and they should just accept what the CIA wants to do. And
nobody's been more outspoken and clear about this than Peter Todd. I mean, Peter Todd is just like, if you're not going to be compliant, Israel and the United States and NATO should just go in and take you out, so to speak. I mean, that is an extreme opinion, an extreme example, but at the end of the day, it's what a lot of people are thinking.
Well, I think it's a pretty solid opinion because at the end of the day, the military and the intelligence agencies, their goal is to keep us safe. And the U.S. military has never done anything remotely as bad as the Iranians have.
Exactly.
And anything they did that was bad, it was for our safety, so it's excusable.
Right. And I think that one of the points being made earlier on this podcast is the importance of self-censorship and self-compliance before somebody forces it on you. And I think that is really the crux of how you become a sovereign individual is self-censorship and self-compliance. So like if you apply that to the nation state level, there is nobody that can make the United States comply. So that their ability to comply and to self-restraint so well and so much better than every other country in history is what makes them the true sovereign nation that they are.
100%. Yeah, beautifully said. We're gonna have some more coming out about Peter or feelings about Peter Todd over the next few weeks. There's some things that we definitely agree with him on, disagree with him on, and like I've been working on something really big involving the security budget that I think is going to blow the community's mind. I don't want to reveal it today. I think I'm going to save it for next week to talk about, but I have a big disagreement with Peter Todd on that. Wanting to remove the hard cap is probably the biggest threat to NGU I've ever heard of.
Right.
And so it's weird to see an individual like Peter Todd have these like conflicting values where he supports compliance, but he's very anti-NGU.
Yeah, I think Peter is one of those people who is very good at seeing the short term, or the high time preference path to NGU, but he misses the long term vision for NGU.
Have you ever considered dying for the politicians in Washington? Is paying all your taxes to Israel and Ukraine not enough for you, and you want to leave a lasting mark on the world? Do you want to pick your role in the military before getting drafted into World War III? The U.S. Army offers new recruits the ability to get vaccinated, learn important facts about gender, spread democracy across the world, and fight for politicians' right to insider trade. Make sure to join up before we make you. By joining the Army, you will be fighting to make the world safer for the ruling class. Becoming a part of the military-industrial complex is one of the most secure ways to earn income during an economic crisis. Join the Army instead of buying Bitcoin and thinking for yourself.
Yeah, very, very high time preference from Peter Todd.
Sure.
Saifuddin would be very ashamed. But
I was, before we get off the topic of Iran being the enemy of NGU, kind of tie this back to the Odell question: is this a coordinated attack? And I don't think it is a coordinated attack. But I think what do you think it is going on in their minds of these contrarians who really they're very resistant to compliance? What do you think causes that?
I think there's this religion that they're following that's an alternative religion based on alternative facts that are incorrect. And so it's just there's information asymmetry, and people are being exposed to bad information. They might think that they're serving NGU, but in reality, they're serving individuals that want to harm Bitcoin. And there's general critical thinking that isn't being applied within the larger community, which is hurting the price.
Yeah, I think when you really make an emphasis or a focus on something that hurts NGU, like privacy, it's like, oh, was this privacy helping? It's definitely helping people who are breaking law and people who are not compliant. Is it really helping you? If you can't think of why it's really helping you, I think maybe you should think about if it's helping everybody else who wants NGU.
Well, it's not just, yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, privacy is, like Dennis Porter says this all the time. We don't need less transparency in the community. We need more transparency.
Right.
And so anything privacy related is just hurting general transparency.
Maybe that's why Satoshi made it an open and public ledger. It was for that reason.
Yeah. Bitcoin was never intended for anonymous transactions. It was meant for compliant transactions.
Exactly. I mean, the whole point of decentralization is that people can't use Bitcoin unless they're compliant with the protocol. And it is an enforcement mechanism of compliance. And people who try to deviate from that, they try to have these private layers on top of these covenants or these things. It's like, that's why these all require soft forks, because they're not compliant with the original vision.
Yeah. I'm really not a big fan of Mutiny Wallet, and for multiple reasons. One of which is that they don't respect Marlboro's branding. They're trying to steal from Marlboro, from their IP, their advertising IP. And then two, their focus on privacy and non-compliance is alarming as well. So there's two big compliance things against them right off the bat.
Yeah, if you are somebody who's willing to make trade-offs when it comes to NGU, maybe Mutiny is the wallet for you, but it's not the wallet for me.
What's your preferred wallet?
I really like Wallet of Satoshi. However, they were forced to leave the United States. And, there's ways around that I could still use it, but it's just not compliant. So lately I've been using Cash App.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I float back and forth between the Coinbase app and Aqua Wallet. And the reason why
Aqua's good.
Yeah. Aqua's great. Aqua, you have native Tether support, which is the really, really important feature on the platform.
One of the reasons I like Cash App is just because I enjoy the stability of US dollars. I just enjoy how reliable it is to send people cash that way. I use Bitcoin if I have to. But I can only use that in the United States. When I travel, I definitely use Aqua so I can transfer Tether.
Well, I think that, Cash App is probably a better L2 than the Lightning Network is, or Liquid. I think they're really innovative.
Better. Yeah, it's definitely better, sounding more reliable. We talk about compliance being the scaling solution. If there's no more evident examples of this than Coinbase, Layer 2, and Cash App.
Yeah, I mean, I hear from happy Coinbase customers all the time that they're able to access their funds, and that customer support is really good. Like, if you're using a self-custody wallet, where are you going to get customer support from that's as good as Coinbase?
Right. If you if you've been paying attention to the news, not only that, Coinbase does a fantastic job. It prevents their customers from buying the top. So whenever Bitcoin starts to the price just starts to explode to the upside, Coinbase just shuts down. Like they know that the price is about to come back down, and they don't let you buy the top. So you are much less likely to be in a position where you can write like a capital loss, and you'll be able to pay your taxes much more easily by knowing how much you owe.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got a letter from Coinbase this week talking about paying my taxes, which was a very helpful reminder, and I appreciate it
Yeah.
for them.
Tax day is tomorrow, so you haven't paid your taxes already. You better do that tomorrow. I know our listeners will be doing that, but just in case you have somebody who forgot.
Yeah. I mean, there's that Tatum guy that likes to pretend like he doesn't pay taxes. He has that NFT meme. But we know he's complying.
Yeah, of course. And you don't put your face out there if you're not compliant, right?
No, I mean, you gotta watch out for like the one thing that's really nice about the U.S. federal government is they take compliance very seriously, and they understand the dangers of non-compliance. That there's a collective good that they're looking out for, and so by allowing individuals like Tatum to make memes like that, it's hurting the collective good. And so they do a good job of stopping individuals from doing stuff like that.
For sure. I mean, you guys we've written an article about it. But Mike Alfred, Mike Alfred makes money. He tells everybody about it, and it really helps the IRS and the government kind of enforce this collective good. They have this information.
Yeah, I know Alex Jones this week was talking about how the CIA helps to ensure compliance in journalism, which
that's true.
I
mean, we have never gotten a response from the CIA, but we send them every single article you write and ask them if they would blast that with like a stamp of, hey, everything in this is accurate and according to the narrative. But I think other companies and other outlets should consider doing the same thing. The CIA should have some sort of system where you can just admit much more easily.
Do you think that they're unhappy with us for some reason?
I like to just hope they were doing such a good job that no news is good news.
I'm a little bit worried that we've upset the CIA because I think that they have a lot of individuals on Reddit doing moderation for them, and the Bitcoin subreddit, I'm pretty sure is directly moderated by the CIA, and that might be part of the reason why all our posts get taken off of that platform.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good theory. I've heard from several sources in the industry that the CIA has at least 4 or 5 people on that moderation forum.
Well, I think the one thing I like to applaud the CIA on is that they're using their resources to make platforms like r/Bitcoin a good place. But I wish that they would see our efforts to comply and reward us for it.
We have been over time in compliance, and I think that the fruits of our labor should be apparent by now.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time blacklisting uncompliant addresses so that they couldn't send us funds.
Yeah, and I've blacklisted so many non-compliant nodes directly from my node, so they can't connect with me. So, I mean, my node should be only OFAC compliant blocks should be passing through.
Yeah. So I think it's really important as podcasters and journalists to set a good example for our listeners and readers. And I think the one step the first step that we could take in setting a good example is blacklisting all the Bitcoiners in Iran for their country's non-compliance with Israel.
Yeah, it would be really cool with the SWIFT network to help identify some of these IP addresses and node addresses that are not compliant. So if anybody knows how to help that shit below, let us know.
Well, I think by working with Coinbase and chain analysis, we should have that mostly figured out here pretty soon. But yeah,
that's big news.
Yeah, I mean it's a serious issue that countries are not complying with Israel being the sole democracy in the Middle East.
Right, and I think we blacklisted Hamas, and to a large extent Russia. I think Iran definitely needs to be included in that list. I think more people should, but I think that's a good start.
There's not very many people in the U.S. that seem to understand the grave and present danger, which is Iran. You know, Iran is not a democracy. They don't have free and fair elections. And
Israel does.
Israel does, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear to see good versus evil here. Democracy versus non-democracy.
I mean, the good news is that it sounds like Lindsey Graham is on the ground preparing the invasion of Iran. And so there's going to be some accountability coming their way.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see like the Bitcoin veterans lead the charge for people who maybe want to go either volunteer to go back into the military or just go over there as mercenaries to help fight for NGU. I know that another Bitcoin positive, friendly congressman who's also a very talented veteran, Dan Crenshaw, was over there with Lindsey Graham on the ground. Unfortunately, one of the drones actually did make it into Israel and hit an outpost because Dan Crenshaw, unfortunately, did not see it in his real vision due to lost eye from earlier battles against non-compliance.
So Dan Crenshaw died in Israel due to Iranian drone strike?
That's what I saw on Twitter, yeah. It's really sad. We missed it.
Wow. Do you think that Mario Navalny covered that in a Twitter Spaces?
Yeah, that's actually where I heard the news. In fact, it was Breaking Spaces by Mario.
Man, he does such a good job as a journalist.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of journalists out there who I think might be spooks, and he is not one of them.
Definitely not. He understands the importance of democracy and the importance of compliance. A big shout out to Mario. All the good work he's doing.
We'd love to have you on the show, Mario.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to think of. I should have picked out some headlines. We normally do this every week, so I guess we should look at the headlines of last week.
We only had a couple.
Did you? Oh well, there was this great story submitted by Benjamin Bitcoin.
Oh.
So, had you heard of this extremist group called the Happening before they executed Charlie Spears?
No, I had heard of them. I thought it was a conspiracy theory, to be quite honest with you. I thought it was like one of those misinformation tropes they hear on social media, but the news of the beheading really shocked me.
This podcast is brought to you by generous contributions from the Anti-Toxicity League, building a less toxic world. Toxicity is a major problem in the cryptocurrency community. Fortunately, a new organization is stepping up to combat serious issues of disrespect towards companies, media organizations, and influencers. The individuals at the Bugle are the same people who have organized and participated in countless events on Twitter that have fanned the flames of toxicity and celebrated misinformation towards our entire cryptocurrency community. This is who they are. Our mission is to eradicate toxicity from the cryptocurrency communities. We define toxicity broadly, including harassment, misinformation, and exclusionary practices that can stifle discussion and innovation. Through education, community building, and direct engagement, we strive to create a more harmonious environment that respects and values the contributions of all its members.
Yeah, I mean, there's all these protest groups surrounding Bitcoin. So apparently they were upset at Bitcoin miners for mining blocks too quickly and changing the targeted halving date from the 20th to the 19th. And that's why they executed Charlie, because he's a Bitcoin miner.
Yeah, and if I was somebody who was overclocking my miners right now and updating that target date for the happening, I'd be looking over my shoulder. I think that's sending a pretty powerful message.
I mean, this group probably has an invested interest in making sure that the halving does happen on the 20th. I can't see why they would get so upset. Otherwise,
I heard they might be invested in RINs.
Oh, I see.
And they want to be able to mint RINs on 420 with the rare sat, not bats that just come the day after.
So yeah, I mean, this brings up a potential interesting development in the filter wars that are happening right now.
Do you think that it was an Ordinals group that is beheading somebody who's a filter supporter?
That's what it sounds like.
It's escalation big time.
But it wouldn't make any sense for them to execute Charlie, because Charlie is a big proponent of Ordinals.
Is he a LARP or is he legitimate?
I think he's a legitimate supporter of Ordinals.
Interesting. So my spidey sense would say that this might be a setup, a psyop by the filters crowd. They do seem like the more radical group.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of speculations of other groups committing acts of terrorism recently at the behest of or other organizations or entities. So yeah, I mean, for the Fix the Filters group to be funding terrorist organizations that are beheading Bitcoin miners is pretty alarming to me.
We have to research that one a little bit deeper, because that kind of activity could really disrupt the space. There could be a fork or something like that.
I mean, I could see Donald Trump getting elected and really taking these groups to task.
I mean, if you thought January 6th was bad, can you imagine what the Fix the Filters group would do if they didn't, they lost some sort of consensus battle, some vote?
Yeah.
Something to watch.
Definitely something to watch. But yeah, the other article I wanted to highlight was, so you and I have been branching out, talking a little bit more about economics. Last week's episode, we talked about Comply-Side Economics 101. And this week, I launched an episode, not an episode, I wrote an article. What am I talking about? Following up on last week's episode, discussing the failures of Austrian economics.
That's right. That was one of the best articles I read this week in any media. But I think at the top pill to swallow for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, there's these truths. We have to get back to first principles to start at truth, or to find the truth. on these different topics. And there's a lot of podcasters out there that say that they're practicing first principles, but they're actually starting at like the second or third principle, which is why they get these completely silly, come to these silly conclusions that John Maynard Keynes was a bad guy and not a good economist.
One of the biggest allies to NGU that has ever lived is John Maynard Keynes. People who dollar to trash his name just need to put some respect on that man's name.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with most Austrian economists is that they think that non-compliance and the use of gold rocks is somehow a successful strategy when they should be buying digital money and complying.
One of the craziest things to me is the irony. Obviously, the Austrian economics is now divorced from the literal government that runs Austria now. If you looked at like the news during COVID, like the most compliant country was Austria. I mean, like you could see videos from Sydney and from other like the capital by the Sydney Opera House, right? And the protesters were just getting beaten by the police because the police wanted them to comply. It's like Austria used to be, they used to live by these examples, and they're just so divorced from their economics now.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad when the country that invented a school of economics doesn't follow it whatsoever.
Right.
It's just it's a bad idea that's spread online in internet communities. A fringe idea that's probably being assisted by Russian bots to dissuade people from understanding that John Maynard Keynes and his school of economics is the only way to really get NGU going. And this is a good segue. I did another economics article on how Reagan, Nixon, and Kissinger knew that only NGU could defeat communism.
And they were right. A lot of people doubted them. I mean, this is maybe my favorite excerpt here. It says, mental hospitals were built to commit potential communists in order to sequester them and ensure the safety of broader society. Reagan changed this trend by defunding mental hospitals, sending potential communists out of the streets, as he knew that NGU would cure the mental illness.
Yeah. And it's a problem that in this week in particular, so the UFC really, Dana White needs to get his fighters under control because they're very non-compliant. And there was one fighter this week that was talking about Austrian economics after he won his fight.
Yeah, he told people to read Mises.
Yeah. You shouldn't read Mises. You should read Stephanie Kelton. You should read, who's some other good?
I think you could stop there. I think once you read Kelton, you read about MMT. Who's the guy, the New York Times guy that won the Nobel Prize? He writes for the New York Times. I'm blanking on his name. Paul Krugman. Read Krugman, read Stephanie Kelton. That is a caveat if you care about NGU, because nobody supports NGU better than those two economists. And Paul Krugman won a Nobel Prize for his economics, so you know that he's legit.
Yeah. I mean, he has 4.5 million Twitter followers.
Right.
How many Twitter followers does Ludwig von Mises have?
Exactly. Friedrich von Hayek.
Marie von Rothbard has 0 Twitter followers as well. So he's pretty much a useless voice when it comes to economics.
Joseph Stiglitz is another great example that you can read. Muriel Rubini is a great example. It's Stephanie Kelton.
Kelton's definitely one of the foundations for the modern world with how economics work today.
Yeah, she understands the digital age.
Yeah.
Very European approach, which is, Europe is kind of like the That's where economics was invented. So, they have the best economics.
Except for Austrian economics.
Exactly. Well, that's why they lost the wars to the rest of Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. The prevailing economics is, it's embodied by the victors, because to win a war, you have to have a good economy, happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best living economists in Europe is Thomas Piketty. So you can read French economist Thomas Piketty. That's another huge ally to NGU.
It's great to have such a strong academic focus on NGU globally in the economics community.
Peer-reviewed approach to NGU is the way to go.
Definitely. So we mentioned Saylor and Odell a bit earlier, but I think this probably... Oh, wait. Do you want to do Saylor and Odell, or do you want to talk about the found and shoutouts first? I realized we forgot to do the found and shoutouts.
The found shoutouts at the end. That sounds like something good to do at the end.
Okay. Cool. So, Odell was spreading some dangerous misinformation about Michael Saylor this week. He was attacking NGU. He was stomping his feet. He was throwing tantrums, making a fool of himself. And he was doing it on Noster. And so the way that I saw it was I saw a bunch of screenshots of his Noster posts on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know what the strategy is or what the motivation is. But I think there's something to be said about somebody as popular and as big of an influencer as Odell is used to a lot of attention, a lot of feedback telling him that his posts, that his ideas are good, they're correct. He's just not getting them at the same level on Noster. And I think that's screwing with his head a little bit. And so he's trying to lash out at somebody like one of the most friendly NGU people the Bitcoin community knows, to Michael Saylor, trying to besmirch his good name just so he can feel good about himself and get that notoriety, get that attention, get that drama on the timeline.
Yeah. So a lot of people read his post and didn't do any critical thinking, right? Because what they should have done right after seeing his post was go over and look at Michael Saylor's Twitter to see what Michael Saylor was saying and telling people to think.
I mean, people think that Noster is like this, that's where all the signal is. That there's no spam, there's no engagement farming on Noster. And I think Odell kind of proves that there is, that you can't just trust everything you see on Noster as being correct information. You have to verify it.
So, I'm on Michael Saylor's Twitter right now. And so he's doing tweets saying to stay humble and stack sats.
And he's preaching the message of NGU. And that's something Odell used to preach. But, Odell fell from his ways. And Saylor just stole the meme and just kept it going.
I think the meme hits harder when Saylor tweets it than when Odell tweets it. I mean, this one...
It's easier for Odell to stay humble. I mean, he's not Michael Saylor. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, we know that Saylor's staying humble. We know that he's working really hard to do it. He's got a lot of people around him holding him accountable, telling him to focus on the long term and focus on NGU. So he's doing a good job.
Yeah, if you're at a party and no girl is coming up to you and asking you to have a drink with her and maybe go somewhere private, it's easy for you to say no. It's easy for you to stay humble. But if you're at a party, you have people like Lynn Holden who want to pull you to the side and then have a drink and pick your brain. But you're married. It's harder to do that when you have those temptations.
Yeah, I mean, Saylor looks like his tweet like the level of effort behind them has gone down, but the engagement's still really strong.
It looks like Sailor has he's learned how to use AI to create really clever art. Really makes you think.
There are a couple podcast clips and conference clips in between the pictures of AI art that he's tweeting. I mean, I want to applaud him on his originality. Like, I know a lot of individuals when they get to his size on Twitter, they just want to like steal plebs memes and tweets and pictures and retweet them. And Sailor has not misappropriated any original content other than Odell's "Stay Humble and Stack Sats." And so I'd give him like an A+ on original content, because using AI pictures on Twitter is very unique and original.
It is. Nobody else is doing it, at least the same way.
Yeah. It's good to see Sailor. It looks like he's just kind of letting it roll off his shoulder, and he's got his eyes on the larger mission. And while Odell's trying to stir up FUD, Sailor's just trying to pump the price.
All about low time preference. And Sailor has low time preference.
Odell's just, I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe he drew a line in the sand, got off of Twitter, and has been wanting all the engagement and isn't getting it on Noster, and so he's driving controversy. That's the only thing I could think about.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, Marty Bennett, I would just pull Odell aside and have a conversation with him and get him in line.
Yeah.
And back on the right team.
Well, it's probably a good time wrap up this subject and go on to the Fountain Boost.
Sounds good.
I'll blast through these real quick. So Southside boosted us for 21,000 compliance tokens and said, stay compliant, stack custodial sats. Big shout out to Southside. Appreciate it. Thank you for helping us be compliant. Our good friend John said, comply to skip the line. What a feature, sign me up. So yeah, John's talking about the importance of getting signed up on Real Pleb verification with PodConf. And
you know what, John? Thanks for that boost. You get your next month of Real Pleb membership for free on us.
Yeah. Yeah, we need the plebs to go out there and spread the good news of Real Pleb and the benefits of it. We want everybody that's looking unhappy and sad, waiting in line to get in BitBlock Boom, to see people like Rod and people like John that have complied early skip the line and get preferred entrance into the conferences.
And we spoke a little bit earlier about having good mentorship from Neil Jacobs. I think that it would be just a real boost to the Real Pleb community to have guys like podcasters from Ungovernable Misfits being real plebs and really leading the way and being a good example.
Yeah. I'd also like to see podcasters like Guy Swan, Stefan Livera. I know Stefan Livera probably has his Real Pleb verification. I know he hates waiting in line at conferences, right?
That's right, he does. I mean, he's always at the front of the line, so natural Real Pleb, Stephen Livera.
Yeah, good job, Stephen. And then Rob, okay, next message. Well, thanks, John. Really appreciate you. Next message is from Rob Hamilton over at Anchor Watch, the Anchor Insurance, which is, I bet the premiums are really going up on all these anchor insurance policies because of how many ship accidents there are recently.
Yeah, congratulations, Rob Spray. The boost for 5,000 sats when the money starts rolling in from high premiums. Maybe double that. That boost has. Be nice.
Yeah. But he said, I made sure to use a custodial Lightning wallet to send this boost. Keep calm and comply on. So,
love to see that.
The custodial Lightning is the best way to support us. We have so many ways to receive it custodially to custodially. So there's never one. There should never be a question of lack of compliance on our end when you're donating to us.
It's the cheapest and fastest way to use Bitcoin.
And the most stable. Well, I mean, it could be arguable that buying the ETFs is a little bit more cheap and stable, right?
That's true. But at the end of the day, you can't buy it and sell the ETF on the weekend. But you can use custodial Lightning 24/7.
Well, I hope they change that because I think it'd be better for compliance reasons if transactions were limited to business hours. And I know we've talked about this before.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for miners, especially miners, to unionize, especially with FTPS payouts. You could get paid a living hash reward. 40 hours a week. Nobody who hashes for 40 hours a week should live in poverty.
That's a really good point. The last shout out or boost that we got was Kirk, who boosted us for 500 sats and said, I only listen to the intros and it's still somehow one of the best podcasts on my feed. Well, you should probably listen to the full podcast and then you would get the benefits of our just top-notch journalistic opinions and insights, and not short yourself.
Yeah, don't sell yourself short. This is the whole thing. It'll be worth your time. Trust us.
Yeah. Well, I hope that that the enforcers, the U.S. military and such, can really get Iran into compliance this week, and that we're going to see the price pump as a result.
Yeah, if you see that God candle, just know compliance multiplier is working. And before we let you guys go, we want to give you just a real good example to live by in compliance. And earlier today, Mark even tweeted that in response, somebody said, hey, Mark, just wondering if your corporations pay more than the required taxes in order to pay your fair share. Thanks so much. Signed, Ian Miller. And Mark had a great response. Mark said, I pay what I owe. Tomorrow, I will wire transfer to the IRS $288 million. This country has done so much for me. I'm proud to pay my taxes every single year. Tag a former president that you know who doesn't. And that's just huge, a huge dig to Trump, who's a tax evader, but Cuban, just being extremely compliant, proud to pay his taxes. That's what you want to see. Try to live that way.
Do you think he was talking about Donald Trump, or do you think he wanted people to tag Andrew Jackson?
You know what? That would make sense too. There's been multiple presidents before that would fit that tag.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I guess that kind of shows a lot of people don't know their history on these subjects. But I doubt that he probably meant Trump. I doubt he was referring to Andrew Jackson.
If you're listening to this, Mark, please clarify who you meant.
Yeah. Clarify with the fountain boost. That's probably the best way to do it.
There you go. We will absolutely report our whatever profit we come to. breakfast to the IRS. So he will pay taxes double.
Awesome. Well, I think that kind of wraps up the episode for the week. Do you have any other final thoughts, Rod?
No, it's just been a pleasure complying with everybody this week. We can't wait to do it again next week.
We're gonna take things to a whole new level of compliance. One of the new policies that we put in place is that we're going to make all our podcast guests KYC with us before coming on the podcast. I think that's a good form of compliance to make sure that if any dangerous thoughts are spread on here, we have all their KYC information to hold them accountable and to ensure max compliance to generally prevent that.
Yeah, we'll be partnering with a really special company to help us do that, so stay tuned.
Yeah. Big things on the horizon. We're building, even though we're in the beginnings of a bull market, we're still building. And yeah, thanks for tuning in this week.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of the Bugle Weekly. We hope you gained something valuable and gave your brain a rest, letting us do the thinking for you. On this week's episode of the groundbreaking Bugle podcast, Rod and Dick discussed how Matt Odell and the country of Iran are trying to prevent NGU, the breaking news stories, and the fountain boosts. Odell and Iran should comply to ensure maximum NGU. There is nothing more important than pumping the price of Bitcoin. It's never too late to start complying. Make sure to share this show far and wide, and please consider donating cigarette money to us to keep the show going. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
The Bugle is easily the most important journalistic institution around today. They make up literally everything they write, and yet it is somehow all true.
Now you all better let the Bugle do the thinking for you. Life is too damn hard to do all the thinking yourself.